Welcome to In Tune. I'm your co-host, Matt Rector, an aspiring luthier from Baltimore, Maryland.
And I'm your other co-host, Ethan Morset, a music producer and founder of Blue Haven Music based in Minnesota.
Our goal is to provide value to enterprising musicians, artists, and craftspeople by sharing our conversations and the lessons we've learned along the way.
If you like our content, help us out by following us and giving us a positive rating on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Tune in for new episodes on the first and third Wednesday of each month. This is episode 43, and today, if we get our schedule right, this airs the day after Thanksgiving Day. I'm keeping this. This airs the day after Valentine's Day. Thanksgiving Day. What in the world? Okay. Happy Valentine's Day. And today, with the theme of Valentine's, we're going to talk about the subject of love. What is love?
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding.
That's what Abby and I have.
It's, the definition of love is what Matt and Abby have. So if you're not somebody named Matt and Abby, then you don't have love. Anyway, we are going to do kind of a little bit of it's not like love themed, but we were thinking, Matt had the wonderful idea of like how you can support a loved one that is working on becoming a musician, becoming a luthier, starting their own business, being a creative, what have you. What are ways that you can show support, and just talking about that subject. So since I started the podcast episode, Matt, you get to answer that first or share your thoughts first.
Man, this is a tough subject, and
I might cry.
I mean, I had this thought of how can you support someone who's doing that, or even just maybe Ethan and I sharing how our loved ones have helped us. And I have to say I'm very fortunate to have a loving wife as well as family that have been very supportive about my endeavors. Not only, luthier and woodworking stuff, but also just throughout my life, as I've gone through many phases, as Ethan knows. And it just got me thinking, not everyone has that. But it's also important to be realistic and not take advantage of your loved ones. I think Abby and I, we were watching this show recently, and I forget the name of it, but basically there is this woman who is working really hard at being a teacher. And, teachers, they don't really make that much money, right? Well, I shouldn't say that necessarily, but there's a stereotype that teachers' salaries are not the greatest, right? So in this TV show, the teacher does not make the greatest money. There we go. And
which is
she
reality based.
Yeah, which is, based on things that are real. But she has a boyfriend who is sort of this deadbeat, guy who wants to be a rapper or something.
Like me.
And
I'm listening.
No.
Sorry.
But
I'll stop interrupting.
No. You're fine. I just am awkwardly giggling. Honestly, it sort of, when I saw that scene, I actually, okay, I guess we're gonna be vulnerable here. I actually asked my wife. I was like, "Do you ever feel like that's how I am?"
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pursuing this goal that's different than the norm. and it might not be something that's ever going to be super lucrative. Maybe it will be, but I don't know. I can't possibly know that
Mm-hmm.
at this time. Um, and sometimes, when I'm feeling frustrated, I have that feeling like, is this realistic? Am I being crazy? Am I putting too much strain on my loved ones? Who are being so supportive and understanding. Am I taking too much time away from them to pursue this? And I mean, yeah, those thoughts, I do have those thoughts, and not that I think I'm like some, the guy who was like the deadbeat character definitely like was sort of a stereotypical like trope. So, and I know that I work hard. I have a 9 to 5 job, and I make decent money and everything. So I know it's not like that where I just basically don't do anything. Um, but sometimes I do feel a little insecure about those things, or even just telling people who aren't even my loved ones, telling friends or people at work, um, what I do as a hobby. I mean, right now it's a hobby. I'd like it to be more than a hobby, but um, sometimes I almost feel like people are like, "Oh, that's cute," kind of like, "Oh, he thinks he's an artist," like,
Creeping on imposter syndrome territory right now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true though, and
Mm-hmm.
so I had that happen, and Valentine's Day is coming up, and that's kind of what got me thinking about some of these things. Um, I will say that as the person pursuing those goals, I think it is important to, mm, I don't know if I want to say be self conscious of those things,
Mm-hmm.
but be aware. And if you, I mean, I'm married, if you're in a committed relationship, it is important to remember that, depending on what the nature of your relationship is and what you've communicated with each other and what you've said as shared goals and things like that, that you do have a responsibility there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to remember that and take that into account, and also just make sure that you're just making time to to be with your partner and hang out and be with your family and that sort of thing, and not be
Mm-hmm.
so obsessively consumed by one. And I how I can get with when I get into something, like,
Like
I
broom
mean,
making.
yeah, yep, there you go, yeah, broom making. I don't know if there's a fancy name for broom makers, but that's
I hope it's just broom making, to be honest.
my new pursuit. So, uh, joking aside, um, yeah. So that's my thoughts, I guess, on what I need to do as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
I guess before we get into the partner aspect of it, do you have anything you'd like to share about that, Ethan?
About like just our part to play in the whole thing, like
Yeah,
the
or just
as the
maybe any.
creator, business owner, whatever, the
Yeah,
person who is potentially putting stress on the relationships, or doing the deadbeat rapper role of the you know what I mean. I'm just kidding.
well,
Um,
that's why I was like giggling. It wasn't because you were interrupting me. It's because it reminded me of that TV show, and I like was a little hesitant to share, what I said. But
mhm.
um, anyway, go ahead.
I mean, no, I agree with you. I will just say it is hard to find that balance, um, between the full time job, working on your aspirations, and then also finding time for relationships, but yes, it is important. And I can't say that I've really mastered that balance yet. But yes, I mean, relationships are a big part of the equation. Uh, this is going to sound super cheesy. It's going to sound cliche, but it's cliche because it's
True.
uh,
Bow, 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 bow.
nobody nobody makes it on their own, right? Like there's always help in some way, shape, or form. Um, so it's important to like treat those people that are helping you, whether it's just through support, making sure you remember that they're doing that for you and spend time with them and all that stuff. So totally agree with what you said, Matt. That is all I have to say about that. So
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I will say that when I asked Abby if she viewed me as, this deadbeat guy who's
she nodded.
who's starry-eyed and is going nowhere, she said, "Absolutely. That is exactly how I think of you." Just kidding.
Not surprised at all.
She definitely she said the opposite. So she said she definitely does not view me that way.
Okay, good.
So, but she did say she views you that way, Ethan.
Oh well. She's not my wife.
I'm just kidding.
I don't even care. I'm
gonna tell her that you don't care, and
she probably won't care that I don't care.
it's probably true.
And you seem to care more about this than either of us. And you're not even part of it. So, anyway.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. We're getting sidetracked here.
On
to
to
get
part
back on track.
On to part B.
And part B was if you were, someone's partner who is pursuing something like this, how can you be supportive? And or maybe not even partner, just family member, friend, whatever it is.
Yep.
I think I've shared this on this podcast before. My grandmother, when I told her some of my goals, she just said that she think something along the lines of like, yeah, I think you can do it. I think you can do anything you set your mind to, or something like that. And at that time, that was sort of when I was getting started in pursuing, being a luthier seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, that's what I needed to hear. What I knew that there were risks.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it wasn't necessarily going to be easy. I knew I wasn't necessarily going to make a ton of money. And I think a lot of times friends and family, they have good intentions to, they don't want your friends and family, they don't want to see you struggle, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to see you, going through a hard time or putting in a lot of work for nothing, or I don't want to say for nothing, but, your family doesn't want to see you struggle, your friends, your loved ones. And I think sometimes the inclination is to bring up all of that stuff. Well, that might not be, very reliable, Are you sure about that? And I think the intention is good, right? It's with care.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I knew all those things already. And so hearing those things from those people whose opinion I valued was just sort of discouraging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it is important just to be supportive and to also understand you need to hold them accountable for, when like making time, that sort of thing, for for you and for your relationship and not let that get out of hand, but also being understanding of when they set boundaries, like in terms of I'm setting aside this time for this, like this is my plan. Like I'm still going to, spend time with you, at this time, but like at this time I really need to work on my goals. And being understanding of that, and I guess accepting no when they're focused on whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess now, just to relate it to something that like Abby and I have gone through, um, she surprised me and took me to, I think, Lowe's or something, maybe Home Depot. But she took me to the big box store. You can pick or choose whichever one. But she surprised me and bought the wood so I could build this workbench. I'd been planning on building it, and at the time, this was before I worked at Radcliffe, I think, and we didn't have very much money. During COVID times, lumber prices were really, really high.
Mm-hmm.
So I had sort of been planning on doing this, but kind of dragging my feet because I thought it was gonna be pretty expensive, and she just surprised me one day and said, I believe that you can do this. Like, I want to do this for you. And it was very sweet. But that's a good example, I guess.
Don't let her go, Matt. Don't let her go.
Yeah. For sure. So I'm very grateful and I'm very blessed to have family that is supportive and does believe in me. And I guess I would just say it's okay to be realistic, and it's okay to have constructive criticism. But the person who's pursuing those goals, they probably already know some of the challenges. And I would say focus more on the positives if you can, rather than the potential hardship.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
So that's my 2 cents. I'll let you weigh in now, Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say what you're saying in a different way, basically, but basically agree all the same stuff. I think, like you said, it's very common to have the reality talk, like, oh, like, don't you know that's going to be a lot of work, or don't you know that's going to be really hard, or how do you know you're going to be able to make enough money, like all those things, which are all totally like reasonable things to bring up. But like you said, it at some point it's just redundant. If you hear it from like 10 people, like it doesn't help you anymore. Oftentimes doing what we're doing and doing what other people are doing like this, it's really hard. It's really hard. And I know it's not just us it's affecting, but like working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, in your case, 4 days a week in mine. And then after an exhausting day, finding the extra energy day after day after day, and then trying to do it on the weekends sometimes too, and that kind of stuff. It's like working a job and a half, and that's just really hard. Plus there's all the other things, like learning a lot of stuff that you need to know to become your own business person, like the stuff you don't want to learn about, like do I need to be an LLC, or is a sole proprietorship fine, or the legal parts of things, or the marketing parts of things, or like frankly, like Instagram. I don't want to do that. Like if it were up to me, I think there are parts of it that are interesting, but like if it were up to me, I'd focus on music, right? More than anything else. But um it's just hard, right? And
Hmm.
doing stuff like this causes, like, I don't know about you, but like it makes you face a lot of your demons, like all of the things that are like,
Yeah, that's
you're
the
not able to
truth.
do this. You're, what are you doing with your head up in the clouds dreaming about this stuff? This is ridiculous. Like, that happened to me when I went to the taxi conference in November. I literally was in the Minneapolis airport about to, like, waiting for my flight to Los Angeles, and I was just literally like, what the heck am I doing? Like, this is crazy. This is, why am I going to a conference in California for music, like, by myself? Like, like, you just get that little, I can't say the word I want to say cuz I'd have to bleep it out, but like your inner critic, we'll say. Um just like really comes out when you start to do these types of things, because uh all the self-doubt comes out, you know.
Hmm.
Um So, like, what somebody like, I know for me, but especially, but I think like it's true for anybody, is just like what somebody like that needs to hear is not more doubt. Like, they need to hear like faith and belief that you can do it, because the reality is yes, it's going to be hard, but the people that succeed are the people that persist. And the people, you make it easier for people to persist when you show that you think that they have what it takes to persist enough and learn enough by persisting to finally eventually be successful at some point. Because the people that uh it's all cliche, but like the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, it's so real, because like, have you ever heard the like Henry Ford quote, like, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. um it
Yes, but I dislike Henry Ford.
Okay, well,
'Cause he created the assembly line, and that led to the decline of hand craftsmanship.
okay, well, it's a good quote, okay.
Alright.
um it's a good quote. We'll say it was
I'm just, I'm just,
Gandhi
I'm
said
just
it,
playing. I'm
I don't
playing
know.
around. I mean, obviously, a lot of things we take for granted in our lives are because of modern manufacturing. So,
Yeah. um but like, it's just sort of like proves a point, like, the point it's trying to make is like the people that think they can't don't really even give it an honest shot, right? They don't
mhm,
persist to the point where it takes to actually have success. Therefore, they fulfill their prophecy.
mhm,
So, and then it's the flip of that. If you believe you can, you are more likely to persist, and you, by persisting, increase your chances of being successful. So like, the thing that like somebody who's doing something difficult like this needs to hear is not more doubt. Like, they need to hear that they can do it, and that you believe that they can, and that doesn't mean that they're not going to have to work hard, but that you believe that they, with time and persistence, will be able to figure out a way. And I think that's true for a lot of things. Is you never know whether things are going to work out or not, but like, you have to still believe that you can do it. Otherwise, like, yeah, then you're not going to do it. So, um,
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
people who, sorry to interrupt,
No, go ahead.
I think that people who are pursuing something like this, it's not really the status quo. And whenever you're doing that, you're going to face some challenges and adversity. And
Mm-hmm.
so by piling on more doubt, I mean, you're just sort of adding to that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, if it's just creating like another barrier or like more self doubt. Um, I definitely get imposter syndrome sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, sounds like you do, like when you were in the airport,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and if you want to, I guess, equate the Henry Ford thing to like a nerdy reference.
Hmm.
You know, you can talk about Star Wars and like, Yoda when he's like, "There is no try, do or do not."
I knew you were gonna say that when you started. You're like the nerdy quote version of that. Yeah. Um. Yeah. It's not to say like it doesn't hurt to like bring up realities to people that are doing that, but like bring them up and then be like, but I believe that you can figure it out. Just
Hmm.
it might be hard, but like we're here to support you through that and help you through that and whatever. Um, and I don't know. That's been kind of the positive side of like what I've like as I've opened up more about like what I want to do with my life. Like I've given my friends and family more of an opportunity to show support, and that's
Hmm.
actually been mostly an encouraging thing, you know, um, because I do have family members and friends that do support me, and I know that not everybody has that, for a crazy idea like trying to make a living off of music.
Hmm.
Um, and it helps. It's that little push to like keep going, or that little bit of motivation when like right now I'm feeling kind of like in the last episode talked about feeling discouraged and overwhelmed. That's when that stuff matters so much more,
Hmm.
because that's the thing that like you said, like when you were feeling kind of like down last at the end of last year, like we talked about it, and like our podcast has kind of helped that, like helped you get a little bit out of the funk, and like um I think that's where that value really comes, because all you need to do is help them persist. It's about like getting through all of the setbacks and all the failures and all that, so that and learning all the things you need to learn before you can be like successful. Um so so cheesy, but I so believe in it too. Uh all those
I do.
self-help books that I read.
Do you think it's helpful when your family or partner or friends take an interest in what you're doing?
Like ask questions about it, like how did you do
Yeah,
this or whatever.
yeah.
I think that's good. I think it shows that they're like actually genuinely showing interest in what you're doing.
I don't expect Abby to understand the intricacies of some of the things that I do.
Hmm.
I mean, I actually don't expect her to understand any of it really, but I enjoy when she does take an interest in what I'm doing. Um, or even just my family and, family members, friends, that sort of thing, when they ask questions about it. Or, recently I've been making more of an effort to share things on social media, and I've had some people just say some nice comments, and, it feels good. And I will say that that's also kind of like what you're saying, giving people an opportunity to do that. I think that's something that maybe when you have imposter syndrome that you miss out on.
Hmm.
You get too caught up on everything being perfect, and so, oh, I'm not going to post that. I'm not going to share that. Like kind of like what I was saying before. You know, sometimes you can feel like people are judging you. Like when I said at the start of the episode, people are like, "Oh, that's cute." When you tell them, "Oh, that's a nice hobby," like, and that's what you think people are going to react and say. And sometimes they do, but also sometimes people will take a genuine interest in it, and you might even get some business from that. some of the things I've shared, uh, there's been a couple things that people have asked me to make,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I've shared this with them. Instruments that I've sold, just from talking to people. And so I do think that is maybe an important aspect on our part, is
Mm-hmm.
to try to share that stuff, even though that you might not always get the reaction that you want, but giving people the opportunity to support you rather than sort of hiding it away because you're afraid.
Yep. Yep. Totally. And if you're gonna, I mean, it depends on your like situation, but like a lot of times, even if it's just one friend or one family member, like you're gonna need support in some way, shape, or form to do it. So, like, you keep hiding it from people and not treating it like it's something you're serious about and not giving other people opportunities to support you, you're just gonna make it way harder on yourself. Um, because yeah,
I mean, eventually you got to put that stuff out there. If you actually want it to become like a business, you can't just keep it a secret. Like,
I'm a successful businessman, but nobody knows it.
yeah, like, yeah, I mean, like your friends and family are probably like pretty good people to like try things out with and like gauge interest on things.
Yeah, I just know not
Like,
everybody
pretty low
has.
risk.
I know not everybody has the parents or
Mm-hmm.
siblings that they should have. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't have to be immediate family. I mean, a friend or something. Like even I would imagine one person, right? Like helps because then that person can be somebody you can confide in when you have discouraging or disheartening things that happen, or just when you want to share something you're excited about. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I really think the big thing supporting loved ones with like endeavors like this, it's not about trying to figure it out for them. Although if you want to help, great. It's just
That's an excellent point.
uh it's just really more about being like, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I believe that if you care about it enough, you'll figure out a way,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um and then leaving it at that. That's my opinion, at least. I believe in you, Matt.
I believe in you, Ethan.
Oh, this is just so adorable. Come on, do the heart. Why
Oh,
isn't it's
oh,
doing it? Okay.
oh, there it goes.
Wow, this is hot Valentine's Day all over. I mean, this is this one's gotten pretty
Pretty personal, I would
gushy.
say.
Yeah, pretty gushy and personal and um
And to
but
the
yeah.
people out there who are trying to pursue stuff like this, I hope that you guys have good support systems. And if not, try to surround yourself with people who will support you. I mean, like Ethan, he went to that conference and made some connections. Or even just in your local community. Like I became part of a makerspace, right? Um, it is important to have that support system, I think, or just have people around you that can help support you and inspire you. And we can't always pick our family, so I know that that's tough, and I know that Ethan and I are privileged in that regard, that we have family that is supportive of things like that. I do think it becomes a lot harder, depending on your background. Like if you were, you know, really poor, for example, when you grew up in poverty, then practical things are they take the forefront, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, a lot of times it's not out of malice. You know, your family wants the best for you. They don't want you to struggle. But those things can be amplified depending on, you know, what your situation is or was. And so, you know, I understand that not everyone has people who can be supportive like that. So try to, if you don't, try to, you know, meet people who can help support your endeavors.
Yep, and that can be a lot of since we talked about how not everyone is privileged to have that. Some ideas, if you're in that boat, um, join a club or group in your area that does what you do and has people that are like-minded. Like, you don't need to necessarily have a friend already or a family member already, or like there are ways to basically inject that support into your life by either meeting other people who are doing what you're doing, or one way that works out really well for me um, is having a paid mentor. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's really hard to find a free mentor, and paid mentor that gives you somebody to like support and encourage you and lead you and all that stuff. So like those are options too, you know.
Yeah, or I mean, even just online communities.
Hmm.
Like, you know, some things like Luthery are pretty niche. So, you know, if you lived in a more rural area, it might be hard to find, you know, people in your community who are pursuing something like that. You could probably find woodworkers. Um, but I'm part of a couple different luthier groups online, and you know, any online forum has its moments, but I will say that for the most part, they're very supportive. You
Hmm.
know, people tend to be supportive of each other. They help each other out. You know, regulars who are part of different groups will send each other supplies or tools or things, you know, they might sell them to each other or even just give something to someone else in the group that, you know, they've connected with if they have extra. Like, I've seen stuff like that. And it's a great way to network. And especially if you maybe can't find that like in your area in person, but you
Hmm.
can share what you're working on with people who have an interest in it and get feedback or compliments or whatever. And I think that that can be really helpful.
Yeah, like a Facebook group where you can post pictures of what you're doing, and at least other people can share, oh, you're just getting started, like, you know, good luck and let us know if we can help in any way, like
Quit
that kind of
now.
stuff. Yeah, quit. um yeah, that kind of stuff. Well, and with the internet, I mean, access to that kind of stuff is virtually available to anyone who has a solid internet access, which is a lot of people, at least in the United States. So if it depends, like with something like what I do, I can find a remote mentor. With something like what you do, it makes more sense to have someone in person, right? Because yours is very much a physical craft. So,
Hmm.
um, so it depends. But like there are other avenues out there that maybe they're not your friends or family. Maybe they're just communities that are trying to do the same thing as you, or a mentor, whether paid or not, that can encourage you. Think outside the box, basically, is what I'm trying to say. As
Hmm.
to how you can get more support in your life for whatever you're working on,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
don't be afraid. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that.
Take
I'm
some
gonna edit it out.
take some broom making classes, guys.
Matt and I are gonna both learn broom making together.
We'll support each other
We'll
as we
support each
become.
other through our broom making endeavors. For my first broom, I am gonna make a Blue Haven broom, so it's gonna be
Mm.
blue. Um, and it's going to be what do I even use a broom for in my studio? Dusting is the only thing I could think of. Anyway, I have some thinking to do to figure that out.
Yeah, that's true. Brooms have a lot of utility for me in my workshop.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know if they'd have as much utility for you, but you can just hang them up as decoration or something.
Hang a broom up as it's not even a full broom. It's like a little hand broom.
I mean, actually, that's like a real thing. Like people do that, but
okay,
I don't
do
really.
it.
I don't know if that fits your decor, but
Ooh, I could use like the little brooms on the drum kit. Actually, that won't work because it's a
Like a
digital
brush?
drum kit. There actually probably is like a setting on there that when I hit it with a snare, like a stick, it makes the brush noise instead of the stick.
mm-hmm.
But that would be where you would use it in music, is you could use like the brush kit or whatever, where you're hitting it with the brush.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of more of that like jazz drumming, laid back, like dude, I don't know.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. All right. Well, that is, I think, all that I have. Ethan, do you want to wrap us up?
Yes, I will wrap us up like the deadbeat rapper. All right, this is that is all we have for episode 43. Until next time, stay tuned.